He woke up in REM sleep. And
Hi. Can y'all hear
Hi,
me
how are
good?
you? We
I'm doing
can.
so well. I'm so excited to be on here. I'm a little nervous, but I've been on the
It's
platform
family.
once before. Huh?
I said it's family. You all right?
Oh yeah. I wanted to jump in on the conversation because I've been listening to you for about a week and a half now, and I've listened to a couple of your panels. And I wanted to speak on the topic, which is accountability of Black women in 2022. And I've recently gone through this dating experience for the past 5 months, and it's come to an end at that point. And I really had a lot of things come up for myself about, like the brother was saying, about vetting during dating and actually courting during dating. And that's something that I'm going to take accountability for myself, because you were saying before in the beginning of this forum, this particular chat, about the thing in the manosphere, hearing about women needing to go to therapy and do the work on ourselves. And that's what I've been doing actively. Now, I've done therapy before, and I've actively been accountable for mistakes I've made in past relationships, ignoring red flags with men, dating pookies and ray rays and staying with them, trying to change them or fix them or pray them into better healing and a better self. So I've done all that, but now at age 33, going into 34 next year, I have realized that I have to be accountable for all the choices that I've been making. And everything that happened in the past is in the past. And moving forward, if I really desire this to be this help meet, or, since we went to church, if I really truly desire to be that, I have to work on myself and just prepare myself. Because a woman's, what I be hearing in the manosphere, and even Brother Kevin Samuels has said, a woman's job is to prepare, to present. Like, how do you present? That's where this, sexual marketplace value and all of those things, I had to begin to be honest with myself about that. Where did I rank? Am I a 5, a 6, or an 8? So all of these things is a part of being accountable. I specifically jumped in here when I think the brother on my left, Fazette, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but you said something about fathers being in the household or having a male presence in the household. I wanted to speak to that because specific to me, and this is nuance, everything is nuance and caveat. I have a father and I have a grandfather and I have uncles, but none of them talked to me about these things when I was young. And maybe that's hard for some people to believe, but that happens to be my story. So even though I have a father and have a grandfather that were married and have been married multiple times and didn't show themselves cheating and being womanizers, doesn't mean that I'm gonna bypass those experiences, because if they didn't talk about it with me at a younger age, it's gonna be easier for me to walk into situations and kind of hide away from going to my father and grandfather and asking them questions, because I never felt comfortable speaking to my father about men that I was interested in, because I had a level of shame about it, because my dad never talked to me about it. He always just told me, stay away from nasty boys. They just want to do it to you and you're going to get pregnant. So it's about also, what is the conversation? Now at 34, I've had to step up and say, Dad, I'm really disappointed, and I learned this in therapy, that you didn't have these conversations with me when I was 15, 16, 17. The conversation you had with me was stay away from boys.
One second. If you listen back to what TJ Randolph said, she said that her father was giving her very subtle hints. And so sometimes I think women are not always receptive to the information that their father's given, because men and women seem to communicate in different languages. So he said, I don't know about him. And you're like, oh, daddy, it's no big deal. And he does that several times. I mean, that's all the conversation you needed.
Well, I don't know about that.
What I'm saying to that is, when I was younger, I never felt comfortable bringing guys around my dad. And what you're saying is valid, because I, in my mind, knew. So that was me ignoring the red flag, right?
Bringing them around your dad, though?
Because number one, when I began dating, my father lives in Baltimore. I live in California. I have a separate household, so my dad's not in my household, right? So that's like a nuance and caveat, right? It's very specific to my story, and that's what I'm saying. I wasn't calling my dad up like, "Oh, Dad, I met this guy at 21, and I met him at the grocery store, and he was selling bootlegs, but he likes me, and no one's ever asked me for." I'm not having that conversation because my dad's not very. He not trying to hear that, and I know that
it's an uncomfortable.
It's an uncomfortable conversation.
Think about your daughter in a sexual situation potentially,
right?
So a lot of times men will avoid that. They will avoid that conversation,
right?
For that very reason. So that if you're like that, this is somebody that I'm serious about. I'm thinking about. This might be the father of my children or my husband. Then that raises that occurrence higher than just a dating situation. You understand? So that's what I'm saying. All those dudes you talk to weren't necessarily supposed to meet your father.
Exactly. And what I'm saying to that now, I'm at a point where in going and healing and figuring out why I'm so afraid to have those conversations, I have had to step up to the plate and go to my father now that I'm serious as a 34-year-old woman and say, a 33-year-old woman and say, "Look, Daddy, I'm really feeling this dude. What you think?" But that's up to me to do now. And that's what I'm talking about as far as accountability. It's not my father's job to go and be like, "Who you dating?" Because I'm hella grown now. And my dad is married. He's taking care of my grandfather. So it is my responsibility to come to my mother and my father and ask them, what do you think about this? And that's why I'm saying, taking accountability. That's a place that I could take accountability and action from now moving forward. Because I have to heal from the past things. I can't hold on to the fact that I didn't do that at 21, or my dad didn't ask me, or my mom wasn't there for me to be like, "Hey, hold up." But now I can do that because I'm doing the work and healing myself and realizing that how I was moving before was wrong on all levels.
Did you already have children outside of wedlock?
No.
You don't have children? Okay.
No.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job.
Let me say this, and Estella, I am truly blessed that you came up here today, because I think that you represent women that are not really being heard in this sphere. The women that are putting in the work, the women that are listening and understanding that I wasn't accountable back then, whether I found it or not, whether I was taught this or not. But now that I know better, I'm doing better. And I don't think your voice gets heard as much as we talk about the Cynthia G's and how they have such a powerful voice of talking nonsense and bullshit. But with you actively doing the work, being able to admit it, I mean, I think it's absolutely powerful. And we need more women like you to say, "Hey, you guys are important. This space is important."
I'm surrounded by women like that. I'm surrounded by women like that in my everyday life. And that's why I know I said, let me hop on this call real quick. Let me say something. But I do have to go back to work. I'm at work right now. It's only 7 o'clock. Thank you for having me on the panel, and I'm going to keep listening.
Yeah,
I think it's good. Okay, I'm sorry.
Bye, Stella.
We'll continue to listen on, I guess, because we can still, hash things out.
Appreciate you, Stella. I think it's good when you guys come to the, and the whole point of you having this discussion and a topic is great because kind of a point she hit on. When you include men in your life that care about you, i.e. father, brother, whoever, as men, we just like women have the intuition. As men, we can sniff out the BS. So this guy coming around trying to date my sister and my mother, a lot of times women are kind of scared to do that, to vet the men, in the family, because the men gonna see through the BS. You like him so much, you kind of going off the emotion. So you don't want to hear us tell you like this is a bad option. You shouldn't be dealing with this guy. So them already knowing that, they're gonna be like, you know what? If I take him to daddy, I know he ain't gonna like. Or if my brother see me with him, I know they gonna, and I think a lot of it is that too. But the value in that, the reason that there's so much high value in that, it keeps you out of danger and it keeps you, there's a safety issue. Because, man, we recognize this guy is suitable. this guy's a hard worker or this guy's running game. Men know what it is, and other men know what it is. You know, again, it's just the laws and rules are different amongst men. Like, we know, you know, if this dude is playing or not, if he got good intentions with you. Your father be able to see that. Your brother be able to see that. So a lot of times women, you know, not all the time, but a lot of times you guys are emotion first. This feels good the way I feel about him. I don't want nobody telling me I can't be with him or can't see him. So then that's kind of when you get into trouble and you go off and do your own thing. Then, you know, like, unfortunately, what happened with recently with this, you know, the girl and going off and nobody protect, you know, no protection, this type of stuff kind of happens, you know. So it's very important to, you know, when it gets to that point, that you guys include men that you trust and value their opinion, because a lot of times we know what's best for y'all, and we know we can see the nonsense. Like, he ain't pulling. This is why a lot of times too, men ain't in the church no more, because they can see the game. The pimp and taking instruction from a man, and he's charismatic. Like, man, we know what that is. You know, so it's like, you know, a lot of that is oh, you back, huh? Okay.
Yeah, men can size each other up.
So a lot of that is on point. So I'm glad she kind of said that, including her father and stuff like that, because again, at the end of the day, it's out of love to protect you guys. That's one of our main duties as men. So
let me ask you guys a question. When you see women like her pop up and say how the Black Manosphere has been influential to her and making particular changes and being more accountable than before, Black David, your son is wilding back there. How does that make you feel? Anyone?
Well, let me say something first. As a father, when we see stuff like that, that gives us hope, saying that if we continue to instill wisdom to our children, especially to our son and daughter, to raise them better, then there's a hope that we can bring a better generation into the community. Because, like she said, and what TJ said hit me even more. She had a father in her life who peeped the guy out way ahead and give her warning time that she ignored. That's the fear father like me have. If we took all the time and effort to instill wisdom, understanding, insight to our son and daughter, then when they get to a certain age and expect them to make better choices, if they bring the potential spot, if we saw something, we give them a little hint, and they don't understand after all the talking we have been done over the years, it kind of makes it seem that maybe our work go in vain. Because I'm not saying that's going to happen to everybody, but that is something that the father will feel, because we got to be honest. The world we live in right now, we need grown folks with wisdom.
Yeah, like that. You got a lot going on back there, baby.
I know my kids are acting all funny in the background.
All right, I'm gonna put you on mute. Let me get somebody else on here, okay?
What's going on? Look at him. Look at him. Look at that dad look right there. He's staring at him.
I know that look. Sit your ass down.
Translating. Sit your ass down.
Sit your ass down. I knock the black.
Come over there.
In between his kids like this.
Sit your ass down.
He's just disappointed in him right at this point. He's just like,
sit your ass down.
Yeah, I know that.
You showing your tail. Huh?
All right. All right. Black Man Unfiltered.
Yes.
The young lady that came up, Estella. As a Black man in here, content creator, and you see that it's women that are also being affected, that are changing, that are taking what's going on in a positive direction in her life. How does that make you feel as a Black man in this space trying to make a change?
It makes me feel, I want to piggyback on what Black David said. It makes you feel like there is hope. It makes you feel like there's not all the women, that all the women are not the same. You can't group all women in the same box. And because women out here are doing the work, it's amazing to see that she would come on and even be there. She's very transparent in what she's saying. And so I put her in the same way I put you, Courtney. You know, same place I put TJ, because she's amazing as well. And I just want to say that I'm proud of her. I pray that she continues to grow. And as she's 30, in her 30s, early 30s, 34, she said, right? So,
30,
you know, yeah. So by the time she gets married, can you imagine that man is going to inherit something that's amazing?
Yeah, that was good. Anybody else? Derek, Fawcett Media.
One thing real quick.
Oh, go ahead, TJ.
Real quick.
And what's going on? We ain't signing.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? Shout out to the chat.
Builder.
What's going on, Black Men Unfiltered? Great conversation yesterday.
Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify something. I did not grow up with my dad. And my point being is that regardless if your dad was there growing up and he comes into your life later now, you as a woman, as a little girl, you always need him. And I did an interview with my father, and you know, he shared some very, you know, candid things. I'm not candid, but candid, but it wasn't graphic. But my point being is this: my father was in the game, in the hustling game in Los Angeles, you know, when I was growing up. So that's one of the reasons he wasn't around. But at any rate, when I dated this guy, several guys in the last 4 or 5 years before I met my husband, my father had one conversation with this dude. One. My dad was in California. I'm here in the DFW. And I think, Courtney, you may have heard of, he had one conversation, and when he got the phone, he said, T, toss that in. He said, toss that in. Because he peeped his game after one conversation. So the difference, Estella, is that, you know, there was time, you know, when you're grown, you think you know stuff. And I was an old grown, like in my 40s. But no matter what, you need their input. You need their input. And so you can still get it. And now maybe your dad or the father figures, the uncles and brothers may even feel more comfortable talking to you now because, you know, they don't get to be that age without making some stupid mistakes themselves. And they may be more candid about, no, baby girl, don't do that. Do not do that. You know, my brothers have said, you know, I have two brothers, my dad, you know, and then a man, talk about the man. When my husband talked to my father, had a few conversations. And then even though I'm 50 something years old at this time, when my husband wanted to marry, he went to my father and asked for his blessing. I'm old and crustified. But he did what every father wants for their daughter. He still went to him.
That's how it's supposed to be. Yep.
He went to my father and say, I want to marry your daughter. I want even in my 50s. So So we women, we always need our daddy.
Right.
And for you fathers that are out there, don't ever think for a moment, no matter how old we are, we don't. Yeah. So you insert yourself, even if they say they don't want to hear you, insert anyway. So I'm out again.
You can see it in women that haven't had their father in their lives as you're dating them too. Like you can kind of
you can tell.